performance as a human being. Being productive throughout the day, not letting the mood swings hit me. So that's when I really start to pay attention to my athletes' mealtime. Is the deeper we get into the process, I will use, like you said, we'll use fasting for clients whose calories get really low, because I do like meals to actually have satiety to them. The whole 6 or 7 meal approach where you're only getting 300 calories a meal, I feel like this is just creating more issues because, as soon as you finish eating, you're just thinking about the next meal. Whereas if someone can eat a more voluminous meal 3 times a day and feel like they actually get the psychological benefit of eating something and feeling full for a little while, there's benefit to that. So there may be some fasting for some of those individuals.
Yeah, and I agree. 3 to 5 meals, or even maybe 3 to 6, is that window I try to get people into. 3 is actually a little bit tough unless you do some time restricted eating, because but then you also have to figure, they're probably not going to get an exact pre-workout to post-workout meal, or now they're all of a sudden into 4 or 5 meals. So exactly as you stated that, Paul, there has to be some thought process in terms of, a couple meals a day that are there for satiety and really getting filled up and getting the protein threshold they need. But then, a couple of those snacks you might want to break apart just for performance. The interesting thing about time-restricted eating that I think has been recycled back into culture is that, we used to do this back in, the generation previous to this group of coaches, in that you just wouldn't eat after dinner. And so if you just said, well, we're not going to eat carbs at night, or, maybe a little scoop of protein powder before bed or something, but basically your meals were over by 5 or 6 p.m., well, that did create that kind of time-restricted eating where you're not eating for maybe 12 to 14 hours. I'm not set on these magical windows of 8 and 16 or something like that, but even by now spreading that out into the morning, that can be helpful. And I've even done that in my own life now, where I simply feel better if, instead of just waking up and shoving food down my throat to get off to work, even though I'm not hungry, it's just like part of my routine. Now I feel better by waiting, getting ready for work, driving to work, setting up my day, and it's like, oh, now I'm feeling a little hungry, now I can eat breakfast, and now I do that at work. If I took that back into my competition days, like that could have made a 3-hour boost where now I get more food at those other meals, which would have been helpful.
I totally do the same thing. I think about that exact thing almost every day when I do. I'm like, am I losing my gains?
Yeah.
Back to the contest prep days when you just you wake up and immediately
must have food. Yeah. So one of the things that I find interesting in terms of helping clients understand the process is a long time ago I wrote an article series called The Phases of Dieting, and I broke the phases of dieting into 5 particular categories. So I'm going to throw these out there and see if it resonates with you guys, or if you have any kind of descriptions that you use for your clients. But the transition phase is that as soon as we start dieting, our body starts adjusting to that. We've been eating enough food for our metabolic needs to not lose. And so there's almost this false inflated amount of calories that we think if we just drop down by 500, that's going to equate to a pound a week. But that's what it takes for you to not lose. Now you're hitting a place where you need to be losing body fat in a sustainable way. And so I find that that's just kind of a false first step, or a short first step, where I will tell people, here you're going to start losing, very quickly, not only glycogen and water, but this is going to be a short span of time before we probably have to readjust your macronutrients a little bit, because the amount of space between what it takes for you to not lose and what it takes for you to lose consistently is a little bit greater than that first step. So I say this is kind of the transition phase. Then I say then we're going to enter the core phase of dieting, which is, we're going to spend weeks and months here where probably not going to be a lot of things happening until your body's fat starts getting to your metabolic set point. And then that becomes a place where, we really have to start adjusting and fine-tuning. So there's the transition phase, that core phase, then I call it the set point phase, which is now where we're diving under a place where your body's not comfortable. Yeah. And so it takes more work, more time to lose. I'm not going to completely grind you down to the ground in terms of calorie intake, but we just have to factor that in there, that's where your body starts resisting you. And that's where I really want to focus on getting to your ultimate look. So if you're a competitive client, that's contest weight. But we still have 2 more phases. That's just getting us to the door. Then I say we're going to enter the or the metabolic building phase, which is now where you've met your body composition goals, but that last little bit of body fat, the thin-skinned look, the really getting down to that final point, can include, actually, if you give it enough time, a window to increase in your food intake. And so now, and we discussed this also in Tier 1, now I want you to have this span of time where we're increasing calories so incrementally that we're pushing your metabolism back up, your anabolic threshold and capacity back up without regaining body fat. So if you're a competitive client, this gives you the advantage of now you're walking into the peaking process with higher levels of food, so you're not as insulin sensitive, you're not going to be spilling over as easily. You're going to be way fuller because now your glycogen stores are at their highest capacities again. Then we can enter the fifth phase of dieting for me, which is the fine-tuning phase, which is now we don't have to worry about peaking on a contest day, worrying about all these variables, and you're still losing, you're still trying to grind through body fat loss. But now we can actually start practicing these things and looking at how consistently we're managing that process. If I can get them all the way through those 5 phases, I know they're going to be as successful as possible instead of just still diving down into that set point phase. Yeah. And so anyway, I just as a conceptual exercise, I find it's helpful to give those kind of labels and explanations instead of just saying, well, we're just going to get lean. We're just going to get shredded. We're just going to do whatever it takes. So do you guys do anything like that in your process?
I was going to ask you, do you do that before they start? Because a lot of people are the 12-week diet, where you can't really do all of that in 12 weeks.
Yeah, I explained it. I explained at least the back of that process that, look, because a lot of people do this. I mean, I had a client just email me today saying, hey, coach, I think the first contest this season I want is in 12 weeks. And I'm like, well, but we have at least 10 pounds to lose. And although that's physically possible, you're not going to look your best until we've had more time to go through that elusive metabolic building phase.
I mean, when you told me that when I first worked with you, I was dieting myself. You helped me for 2 weeks for a show, which we knew was impossible to change me. But you convinced me to do a show, I think it was like 6 months later, and I thought I was lean. I'm like, this guy's crazy. I'm not going to continue to cut down. And he explained that part of it, of the metabolic rebuilding and the fine-tuning, and came in like best ever.
Because you're not dieting that entire time. That's, part of that dieting process is that you're increasing calories. So, maybe 3/4 of the time you are dieting, but that last bit of time is
so, the people listening to this video have to understand that this is such an advanced concept. You might be the only person that's actually actively doing this right now, and I thank God for it, because when I came to you, for help with peaking with clients the last couple of years, you put it into such elegant terms that I could understand, that I had seen this and not understood what I was seeing by clients that did multiple shows, that I was able to get them into position to do a show, and then after the show, reduce their cardio, increase their calorie intake, and they just kept getting harder and better doing multiple shows. But I never thought of it as an approach prior. I always thought, okay, we just have to get you into that first show and then continue, and it's going to continue to improve. This is probably my first year of coaching where I'm not considering the show week where we need to be in show condition. It's weeks before, and then we can have this opportunity. The real benefit is having worked with clients for so many years is that now I have clients that have gone through this process the last couple of years with me, and that they don't only benefit in competing, but when the show is over and you've gone through this building phase, you're eating more, you're doing less cardio, you're not feeling that need to go out after the show. After we went out to our show in Washington, D.C., I had like a burger that night or whatever and a cookie, and the next day I did not feel like, oh, I gotta run through the gamut today. I felt like I was just back to my normal routine. I actually had to consciously start eating more when I got home to start gaining weight again. And so it just changes the entire process of not only the peak, but the success of the post-show experience.
Yeah, and one good example of that, because again, it's not something that you can do with every client. You have to have, as Tyler said, the time and the buy-in. They have to believe this. So 2 years ago, I had a client that was a pro competitor and was very, very good, but had